Welcome back to the show, everybody, with the exciting news of Ripple acquiring Standard Custody or Standard Trust and Company. We have to ask the questions, what happens to Polysign then? And what are the other implications of the acquisition itself? We got that and so much more. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on Twitter and YouTube for exclusive content. Right now, it is $1.94 trillion market cap for cryptocurrency. The market is off by 0.6%, 49,100 plus for Bitcoin, 2,600 plus for Ethereum, 96.5 billion plus market cap for Tether. XRP is 52 cents, off by 1.8 on a 24-hour and up by 4.2 on a 7-day. You saw the price was 52 cents. We'll keep an eye on it. Let's get into this. Hodor, if you've been in this space long enough to remember, Hodor used to write some really incredible blogs back in the day. And then he just went away. Or she just went. They went away. Hodor went away. Well, today, 3 hours ago, Hodor says, well, I just deleted all my controversial, weird, in a strange, finding myself journey in the mountain tweets. Except for one that I'll explain in time. How's everybody doing? Well, we're doing real good. And you know what? Welcome back, Hodor. I hope that we get to see some of your incredible blog writing that we saw back in the day when you were here every day. So it is nice to have you back. Very excited to see how that develops. And then we have David Schwartz. Now, we covered this earlier today about Paul Grewal calling out the SEC and their lack of action and certainly their lack of integrity. Here, David Schwartz highlights here, people who make honest mistakes immediately try to set things right when they realize their mistake, while people who lie and exaggerate for tactical advantage let their mistakes do as much damage as possible. I feel here he is really summarizing exactly the approach of the SEC. And it continues case after case after case. We're going through all of the pain, the growing pains, and it's necessary. It really is necessary. And I just want to say that, this is the things that we're seeing with Debtbox case, the things that we're seeing with Terra Luna, the things that we're seeing with the Ripple case and Grayscale and Coinbase and all the different cases, they're long, they're arduous, they're a lot to withstand. Right. But the reality is this is the path that the U.S. has forced us to go. So this is the path we're going. Bring extra water with you. Then we see this. As you know, we covered in our video earlier today, Ripple announced that they were excited that Ripple has signed a deal to acquire Standard Custody, strengthening our product offerings and adding to our growing portfolio of regulatory licenses around the world. Learn more about our latest acquisitions. And obviously, we hear from Monica Long on this one here. And she goes on to say, as we integrate custody more deeply into Ripple's products, we see clear synergies with Standard Custody to complement our payments and custody offerings, all in service of being one-stop shop to move, convert, and store value with blockchain and crypto. What a remarkable moment this is for Ripple. Just recently acquiring Medico, now acquiring Standard Custody. If this doesn't scream anything else, it's screaming to me this. Ripple knows that they need a huge custody aspect brought into their verticals and their offerings to build out their verticals for their clients, because they know tokenization is about to come on board in a very, very big way. To me, that's putting your money where your mouth is. That's what I see Ripple doing, because it all starts with custody. As you have real-world assets being tokenized, you're going to have trusted custodians. And the more you can build this to be a one-stop shop and all-in service, that's where your customer is going to say, I prefer that solution because I don't have to have 4 different things I'm doing. I do one. I work with Ripple and they handle it all within inside of it like a one-stop shop. This, to me, is screaming that they know what's coming, and I'm super excited about it. Now here in this, and I've got to be very careful because there's some copywritten music in this, and I have to key this up at the perfect time here. This is Jack McDonald, the CEO of Standard Custody and Trust, or Standard Custody and Trust Company, and overseeing Polysign as well, right? And he's going to break down some of the points as a reminder for all of us to level set about the real special things that are done with Standard Custody and Trust at Polysign. So take a listen to this clip here.
For a lot of different reasons, and we can differentiate between retail and institutions. Institutions, in many cases, have to use a qualified custodian as part of the custody rule, and the SEC has recently proposed some changes around that. But using a qualified custodian, if you fall under the rubric of the Registered Investment Advisor Act of 1940, then you have to use a qualified custodian.
Okay, let me stop that there because there is concern. I don't want to get copyright strike there. So now take a listen to this clip.
Ensure that there are the operational and client support teams that you would expect to see from an institutional sell-side provider. You want to ensure that the assets are insured, even though it may not be a requirement. It's certainly a best practice. And I also think, just like in life, we're judged by the company we keep. And so I would be looking at the other service providers, partners, vendors, that given custodians work with, where given custodians, for example, get their market data research from folks like DAR, all who provide an excellent service and we think are reflective of the quality that we and other qualified custodians have.
Okay, now let me move up here to the next little spot.
At Standard Custody, we built our business specifically to avoid any conflicts. So we are exclusively focused on providing custody and escrow services. We don't provide any trading functions or staking or lending or borrowing or market making, et cetera. And so I think as you watch this industry unfold, you will see more pure play custodians like Standard Custody be selected by the issuers. And then we will work in concert with market surveillance partners to provide that very important surveillance sharing agreement that the regulators seem to require.
And I would also think that that would also open the door for them to work with, other partners in services that he just mentioned, because Standard Custody does custody solely. That's what they do. So there can be no confusion about whether you're offering products inside. It's custody. So I think that was a very important delineation there. One more quick clip here. Take a listen to this.
One way or another, tokenization is coming.
That's right.
And it's going to have a profound impact on global markets as we know them. And I think that custody will continue to be a cornerstone of that. There will be other services that complement it, and it will happen slowly over time. But it's undeniable in our view that custody around digital assets will play a key role going forward.
No question about it. And shout out to Jack and shout out to XRP Drops for that clip. Yes, keystone, corner keystone, foundational block, however you prefer to say it. That's exactly what custody is all about. And when I see Ripple going out and acquiring Medico and now turning around and acquiring Standard Custody Trust Company, it says to me they are preparing to be able to offer a solution to onboard massive, massive clients. That to me is what I'm seeing there. Now, looking at this here, this is a reminder here that inside of Standard Custody and Trust, what's just been purchased here as one of the things to highlight is Tim Keeney, board member that came from BNY Mellon. And when Tim Keeney was at BNY Mellon, he was responsible for overseeing 25% of the global assets for the world. That's what Ripple just acquired. Tim Keeney is a part of that, right? So this gets super, super interesting and very exciting. Now, just to go over a couple more things because we still have some unresolved questions to all of this that we're going to need to get from Jack McDonald as well. And there will be a fireside chat, I believe, on Friday that Link2 will be hosting, and I will be participating in that to try to learn as much information for all of us as we can as we move forward. Wrath of Comment says here, Standard Custody was a division of Polysign until today when Ripple bought it. Curious how Standard Custody compares to Medico. Standard Custody ensures holdings is a trust. More useful for some regs? Can it tell us anything in particular about Ripple's plans? See, that I think there's a great question. That's where my mind is too. And again, what if in the general sense, what I'm getting from this is that Ripple is preparing to be able to offer massive custody solutions around the world for many institutions. That's what I believe. And I do mean institutions. And we'll get to that in a second too. Speculative question from Ratha Kongman here. It's interesting that Ripple Properties, Standard Custody, and Medico both having staking functions owned by Ripple. Would they be a conduit for automated market makers, liquidity providers, XRP et al., etc., right? And it's another great question. That takes us to the question that we're currently at, really. Because, again, I have to wonder in the United States, maybe there has to be 3 degrees of separation between those services, right, and Ripple's custody, buying standard custody now. So maybe Polysign continues to offer that, right? Maybe the tech of Polysign. And that gets us to the question we need to be at, because I certainly believe that these custody solutions will be offering access to things like automated market makers and liquidity providers going forward into the future. It just makes sense. Now, we're speculating a bit there, but it makes perfect sense that would be the key case. And I can tell you, as a Polysign customer who has an account at Polysign, that was the long-term intention, is to eventually be able to offer services inside of that platform that you could take advantage of while getting that high-level custody from standard custody trust, right? So this is getting interesting now. This is getting very interesting. So to state the obvious, in January, news bubbled upon Polysign was being foreclosed and investors trying to get capital back quick. Nothing much heard since officially, but likely Ripple buying Standard Custody Trust Company provides the resources to settle everything finally. And that would be great to be able to finally wrap this thing up. And hopefully, again, from the fireside chat, we will learn more from Link2 and Jack McDonald from Polysign and Standard Custody and Trust. But the other part of this is that we need to find out what happens to the tech. Is the tech involved in the atomic settlement and all of this, is that connected to Polysign? And if it is connected to the ownership of Polysign, because we know that standard custody has been sectioned off for Ripple's acquisition, then what happens to that tech if it's with Polysign? I had a great conversation with Todd today, Todd H., and shout out to you, Todd. And our thinking is absolutely aligned. We're trying to figure out now, if that IP stays with Polysign, would that mean that they could license that IP and that tech to Ripple and to Standard Custody and Trust Company for the usage of that service? I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I know it's the right questions in the right areas we need to be asking questions in. And then I want to play this, because this is an older clip of Chris Larson explaining to everybody exactly what's going on here. And they're in the plumbing of the financial system, and they don't need consumers, because they don't market to consumers. Take a listen.
If you want to go direct to consumer, you might turn around one day and realize your entire company is marketing and customer support, and it's like 5% tech. And that's a recipe for failure too. Right now, we're about 2/3 tech, because we're in the plumbing of the financial system. We don't have to market to consumers, and that way we can attract a bigger tech team. And the best tech people want to work with great tech teams, and that means big tech teams. So I think we can have more impact. So and especially if you're trying to serve Chinese banks, Japanese banks, German banks, Australian banks, you cannot have any politics in this. You can't be thumbing your nose at China's capital controls. You should be trying to help China market the RMB in Latin America, and whatever they want. So I think you have to take a very agnostic view and just be builders, not disruptors. I think that would be the main thing I would say. And I hope we're seen that way.
So when I look at the news of this recent acquisition here, I'm reminded, as I've always known, and we've talked about plenty here, that Ripple is not a consumer-facing company, right? They're an enterprise-facing company, right, for enterprise solutions. And that to me is exciting about this acquisition, because just like Medico, I see it as an institutional acquisition to serve the institutional market. And as Chris Larson said, we're in the plumbing of the financial system. This was years ago, right? We're in the plumbing of the financial system. And now they're building custody solutions for it too. I want to learn more, as we all do, but I'm super excited about what we've learned today. That's going to do it for me. Look, I hope you'll join us at digperspectives.com, where you can come into the Freedom Zone or join the DPMG. Whatever suits your fancy, you go to digperspectives.com. You can learn more about it. It's a great way to support the channel through the Freedom Zone. It's not a lot of money. It's very cheap and affordable, and you get some special perks with it too. So I hope that you will choose to do that, or join the DPMG if you're a more serious investor and you want to be around like-minded people. This is the place for you. No question about it. I will catch all of you on the next one. Not financial advice from me or anyone else.